I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
The life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Any number of historic moments in the civil rights struggle has been used to identify Martin Luther King Jr., prime mover of the Montgomery bus boycott, keynote speaker at the March on Washington, youngest Nobel Peace Prize laureate. But in retrospect, single events are less important than the fact that King and his policy of nonviolent protest was a dominant force in the civil rights movement during its decade of greatest achievement from 1957 to 1968. So, what's the story of this great man? What did Martin Luther King fight for? And how was he assassinated? Before we answer these questions, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified as soon as new videos are uploaded. Martin Luther King Jr. was a Baptist minister and civil rights activist who had a seismic impact on race relations in the United States beginning in the mid-1950s. Early life and works. Born as Michael King Jr. on January 15, 1929, Martin Luther King Jr. was the middle child of Michael King Sr. and Alberta Williams King. The King and Williams families had roots in rural Georgia. Martin Jr.'s grandfather, A.D. Williams, was a rural minister for years and then moved to Atlanta in 1893. In 1944, at the age of 15, King entered Morehouse College in Atlanta under a special wartime program intended to boost enrollment by admitting promising high school students like King. Before beginning college, however, King spent the summer on a tobacco farm in Connecticut. It was his first extended stay away from home and his first substantial experience of race relations outside the segregated South. He was shocked by how peaceful the races mixed in the North. Negroes and whites go to the same church, he noted in a letter to his parents. I never thought that a person of my race could eat anywhere. This summer experience in the North only deepened King's growing hatred of racial segregation. At Morehouse, King favored studies in medicine and law, but there was eclipsed in his senior year by decision to enter the ministry, as his father had urged. King's mentor at Morehouse was the college president, Benjamin Mays, a social gospel activist whose rich oratory and progressive ideas had left an indelible imprint on King's father. Committed to fighting racial inequality, Mays accused the African American community of complacency in the face of oppression, and he prodded the black church into social action by criticizing its emphasis on the hereafter instead of the here and now. It was a call to service that was not lost on the teenage King. He graduated from Morehouse in 1948. In 1948, King earned a sociology degree from Morehouse College and attended the liberal Crozer Theological Seminary in Chester, Pennsylvania. He thrived in all his studies and was a valid Victorian of his class in 1951 and elected student body president. He also earned a fellowship for graduate study. During his last year in seminary, King came under the guidance of Morehouse College president Benjamin E. Mays, who influenced King's spiritual development. Mays was an outspoken advocate for racial equality and encouraged King to view Christianity as a potential force for social change. After being accepted at several colleges for his doctoral study, King enrolled at Boston University. During the work on his doctorate, King met Coretta Scott, an aspiring singer and musician at the New England Conservatory School in Boston. They were married in June 1953 and had 4 children: Yolanda, Martin Luther King III, Dexter Scott, and Bernice. Montgomery bus boycott. In 1954, Martin Luther King became pastor of the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama. Always a strong worker for civil rights for members of his race, King was, by the time, a member of the Executive Committee of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the leading organization of its kind in the nation. He was ready, then early in December 1955, to accept the leadership of the first great Negro nonviolent demonstration of contemporary times in the United States, the bus boycott described by Gunnar Jan in his presentation speech in honor of the laureate. The boycott lasted 382 days. On December 21, 1956, after the Supreme Court of the United States had declared unconstitutional the laws requiring segregation on buses, Negroes and whites rode the buses as equals. During these days of boycott, King was arrested, his home was bombed, he was subjugated to personal abuse, but at the same time he emerged as a Negro leader of the first rank. Southern Christian Leadership Conference. In 1957, he was elected president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. an organization formed to provide new leadership for the now burgeoning civil rights movement. The ideals for this organization he took from Christianity, its operational techniques from Gandhi. Letter from Birmingham Jail. In the 11-year period between 1957 and 1968, King traveled over 6 million miles and spoke over 2,500 times, appearing wherever there was injustice, protest, and action. And meanwhile, he wrote 5 books as well as numerous articles. In these years, he led a massive protest in Birmingham, Alabama, and caught the attention of the entire world, providing what he called a coalition of conscience and inspiring his Letter from Birmingham Jail, a manifesto of the Negro Revolution. He planned the drives in Alabama for the registration of Negroes as voters. March on Washington. Martin Luther King Jr. worked with a number of civil rights and religious groups to organize the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, a peaceful political rally designed to shed light on the injustice that Black Americans continue to face across the country. Held on August 28th and attended by some 200,000 to 300,000 participants, the event is widely regarded as a watershed moment in the history of the American civil rights movement and a factor in the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. At the age of 35, Martin Luther King Jr. was the youngest man to have received the Nobel Peace Prize. When notified of his selection, he announced that he would turn over the prize money of $54,123 to the furtherance of the civil rights movement. On the evening of April 4, 1968, while standing on a balcony of his motel room in Memphis, Tennessee, where he was to lead a protest march in sympathy with striking garbage workers of that city, he was assassinated. And that's it for today's video. Don't forget to smash that like button, share this video with your friends, and tell us what you want to see next in the comment section below.